it's an absolute honor to call upon Amit Singh, the founder of Polkadot India and Yoda Protocol, who also happens to be, like many of my peers, my dear friend and boss at Wow Labs. Wishing you all a very insightful evening ahead. Amit, over to you to welcome this amazing group we have here with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Ananya. A very warm welcome to all of you who have joined here today. A very good evening in India, good afternoon or good morning for people who have joined from different parts of the world. It's great to have you with us. So blockchain is a technology that has actually been transforming our lives in a variety of ways. And Polkadot India is a community of aspiring and existing developers, blockchain enthusiasts, as well as entrepreneurs who want to build on Polkadot blockchain specifically. Now, from the forms that you guys have filled up, we have realized that majority of you have come over here looking forward to networking or even hiring. And for networking, we guys have two fantastic groups on WhatsApp and Telegram that have been created. And members of our team will be available over there to support you throughout your journey as you explore what you want to do within the Polkadot India ecosystem. For hiring, we don't have as many blockchain developers just yet, but we've got a fantastic curriculum that's being created, which will be executed and implemented over the next 6 months to prepare an army of developers who could potentially join you as co-founders in your subsequent ventures, maybe intern with you, or join you as senior developers building the projects that you guys have in plan. For aspiring and existing entrepreneurs, we guys are looking at providing you with the resources and structures of identifying a Web3 idea or a problem and building a decentralized solution around it. And as your idea, as the product matures, connecting you with the global Polkadot ecosystem, be it mentors, be it accelerators, be it institutional or angel investors as well. As a part of our community, we will be hosting monthly events in the form of Substrate Saturday. We will be holding workshops for developers specifically to learn Rust and Substrate to start building their own blockchains, parachains on Polkadot and Kusama. We'll also once in a quarter aim to hold a hackathon, provided enough numbers. And in about a year's time, we look forward to organizing a big conference, inviting the who's who of the Polkadot ecosystem. And this conference will be primarily targeted for Indian projects and Indian developers. So that's the roadmap ahead. To keep things sustainable at our side, we may choose to get many of the developers that we are training placed in some of the top blockchain projects in some kind of a Lambda school-like business model. So these are our plans with Polkadot India, and this is how we intend to go about. And I welcome all of you again on our very first inaugural session. I especially want to thank you guys for keeping aside a couple of hours, on a Saturday evening. You could have spent it with family or done any other things that you do on this Saturday, and you're really spending that with us. We really value it, and we've got a power-packed set of sessions ahead of us to make it really worth your time. We'll be having Fred Antunes, who's the CEO of Real Fever, talking about building a beautiful, brilliant NFT product and marketplace, and giving you the insights of how you could go about creating one of your own. We have Vivek Prasannan talking about how they went ahead from idea all the way to launch of Polkadex, going through their idea in between, making it really a very, very desirable project in the Polkadot ecosystem overall. And we have Munjal Shah, who is a prolific investor, a general partner at Secureware Capital, and one of the early investors for Ethereum and early backers of Polkadot as well. Now, some of you here are developers, and we do have something for you as well. And my colleague Varun will be introducing the Polkadot blockchain to you guys, and also explaining how could you get started with Polkadot alongside Substrate as well as Rust. So without further ado, let me call upon Varun.
Thank you so much, Amit. So first and foremost, I would like to welcome everybody over here and hello everyone. Good evening. And now welcome to the official launch of Polkadot India. And over here, the learning possibilities are going to be endless. So without further ado, let's start the journey. Have you heard of these terms like gas fees, low throughput, latency, transparency? I'm sure you would have heard about these terms, which keep us agitated when it comes to running our projects on various platforms. But all of these things, if are to be taken care of along with scalability, then I'm sure we need something solid like Polkadot, right? So what is Polkadot? Now, Polkadot is a software that seeks to incentivize a global network of computers to operate a blockchain on top of which other blockchains could be operated. This is where the actual dApps come in, your very own blockchain. Well, in this way, Polkadot is one of a number of competing blockchains aiming to grow an ecosystem of dApps or cryptocurrencies. To begin with, Polkadot is designed to operate two types of blockchains. A main network called a relay chain, where transactions are going to be permanent, and user-created networks called parachains. Now, parachains can be customized for any number of users and fed into the main blockchain, so that parachains can benefit from the same security of the main chain. Well, you can say that you're renting out their property to build your own palace, right? Now the possibilities are just endless. Now, since you're paying the rent, so it is their responsibility to provide you the security. This way, the transactions are going to be secure and accurate using only the computing resources required to run the main chain. Now, if it is your palace and you're just taking care of your property, so it becomes really private, right? In comparison to the other running chains, well, the Polkadot team believes this design will let its user perform transactions more privately and efficiently, creating blockchains that don't disclose user data to the public network or that otherwise process a greater number of transactions, right? Now, let's actually understand how does Polkadot work. So the one that you see over here, this green line, right? This green circumference, this is known as the relay chain. And this black dot that you see, this is known as a slot. The rectangular box that you see over here, this is going to be your very own dApp, okay? A dApp or a parachain. This entire thing, a piece, is known as a parachain. Now, these three lines that you see, these are nothing but these are the validators. Those who are going to validate the blocks that your parachain is providing and to put onto the main relay chain to get it finalized on the relay chain. And the links that you see on top over here, these are known as collators. Now, I'm sure we would actually go on to all of these things in more detail, but let's first understand that what is the relay chain all about. This is the main Polkadot blockchain. This is the network where transactions are finalized. Now, to achieve a greater speed, the relay chain separates the addition of new transactions from the act of validating those transactions, right? Now, what are parachains? Parachains, as I've explained earlier, these are going to be custom blockchains that are going to be created by you. You are going to utilize the relay chain's computing resources to compute those and put them in an accurate manner onto the relay chain. Then there is a third element also known as bridges. Now, come on, who doesn't want a mechanism or a way to interact with the outer world? We all want to know what is going on in the space, right? We all want to book a property onto the moon, right? Well, that's what bridges do. They allow the Polkadot network to interact with other blockchains. Work is underway to build bridges like blockchains like EOS, Cosmos, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, where you could actually start swapping the tokens or any sort of an application could be deployed without a central exchange. Now, to keep its network in agreement about the state of the system, the Polkadot relay chain uses a variation of proof of stake consensus called nominated proof of stake. This system allows anyone who stakes DOT by locking the cryptocurrency in a special contract to perform various kind of roles necessary for its operations. Now, since you are here, you would have heard about these terms very, very frequently, like validators. As in like other chains, the validators over here also perform the same job. They validate data but they validate data in parachain blocks. They also participate in consensus and vote on prospects. Then there are nominators who are part of the nominated proof of stake. Those are the nominators. They secure the relay chain by selecting the trustworthy validators. Then there are collators. Collators are the nodes that store a full history for each parachain and aggregate parachain transactions into a block for addition to the main chain, the relay chain. Correct. Then we have fishermen. What is a fisherman? This is nothing but the security police of the complex, the rent that you were paying for the property, right? That always monitors the Polkadot network and reports if any bad activity is happening, if anybody is actually behaving really weird as a validator. So the fisherman's job is to complain it to the other validator. Right. Now, so these are the properties which make Polkadot governance pretty strong. Now, these include dot holders, the council, and the technical community. Now, anyone who purchases dot tokens can use their dots to propose changes to the network. The council, these are elected by dot holders. Council members are responsible for proposing changes to the entire ecosystem. The technical committee, these are composed of teams actively building on Polkadot. This group can make special proposals in the event of an emergency. Members of the technical committee are voted in by council members. Well, now this for me is pure decentralization, whereas Ethereum 2.0 has still decided to keep governance off chain. Now you would actually ask me, why Polkadot? So there are so many reasons that I've already provided to you that why Polkadot, but still a couple of more. The main point is Polkadot's design goals. When we started working on the blockchain platforms, we always end up about one particular issue, that how do we test it? On Ethereum, you have multiple testnets. Similarly, various platforms provide you different kind of testnets, but none of the projects like Polkadot provides you an actual deployed or tested real-time canary network like Kusama, where you can actually test your project on chain and how is it behaving in real time. For me, this sets out to be, a big advantage of considering why Polkadot. Now it sets out to be more scalable than the competition and uses shards, which we have already explained as parachains. This helps in order to, do the parallel transactions in a parallel manner. This allows for more transactions per second in comparison to Ethereum. Now, whenever you actually go on Google and you type the word Polkadot, I'm sure there would be multiple words combined together in the search query. They get auto-updated with Polkadot or Rust and Substrate. So I'm sure you would have heard a lot about this, but reading that in a single line could be very, very overwhelming, right? So we are here to make things really easy to understand and benefit for you as a contributor, a learner, a developer, or an enthusiast. So see, like any other piece of software, Polkadot is actually built on top of other technologies. Now, if you want to understand Polkadot, so it is actually a layered stack and Polkadot sits on top of it. Polkadot is actually built in Rust. In fact, Rust is currently being used by all the big time blockchain applications and big time giants like Facebook, where they're ramping up their internal developer support for Rust. And not only Facebook, it is being constantly ramped up by AWS, Google, Microsoft, and Mozilla, which have been part of Rust Foundation since before. Now, why Rust? Because for me, Rust can build end-to-end applications. So the whole point is that learning Rust in comparison to a language where you can just write smart contracts like Solidity, but not create an entire application. So that is slightly tricky, right? So you will have to figure out multiple ways to actually deploy your application rather than just writing contracts. So why not pick up an entire language which can help you build an application? That is Rust. So let's understand about Rust then. Rust is a systems level programming language that aims to be fast, reliable, and efficient. Now, just a brief idea about the semantics. Rust uses the concept of borrowing that allows it to be safer than other low-level programming languages such as C. Also, as a developer, if I have to think, there is no first type creation. Defining a type literally doesn't require any methods, such as constructors, getters or setters, and destructors to get off the ground. While I'm speaking about all this, something suddenly popped in my head. So if you create a struct in Rust, and on top of that, if you just give an attribute known as derive serialize, it is the job of the compiler, the Rust compiler, to actually convert it into a type of the field that you are defining and put it back into a JSON format. So as a developer, you don't have to worry about these small things. The compiler takes care of it. Now, one major benefit of building Polkadot in Rust is that Rust has support for compiling code down to the binary code, WebAssembly. Now, what is WebAssembly? Well, it is just a standard for portable programs that will run consistently across different systems and platforms. I'm sure most of you would have already guessed by the name that the major platform that WebAssembly supports is the web. Well, WebAssembly is popular and is supported by all the tech giants. Now, coming back to Polkadot. So why do we need WebAssembly for this? Well, Rust and WebAssembly are great fits for Polkadot, which needs to run a consistent client. By client as in a node, that is kind of your chain that you're trying to run over different platforms by compiling the runtime into a common executable format. Polkadot is able to upload the runtime onto the chain. Now, this is a key requirement of performing on-chain upgrades in an efficient way as Polkadot does. Now you would be thinking, what is runtime? Well, you can call this as the business logic for your own chain that you will be building on Polkadot and ship it in an executable format. That's how your chain is going to be different in comparison to the other chain logics. Now, this was the bottommost layer. Now let's move up in the stack. The next major component is Substrate. Substrate is a framework for creating blockchains. So the whole idea of building Substrate was to make the code very modular for all the developers to plug and play with the common patterns that could be abstracted and made building logics much easier. So it was all about extracting those key features and classes that were already being utilized by various blockchains. And these repeating pieces could be shared by Polkadot and their subsequent blockchains, also known as parachains. So out of the Polkadot code base came the Substrate. You can assume it like they are passing on their DNA to you so that you can just plug and play by just changing a couple of things and can create your own parachain. So this is just a collection of building blocks for creating blockchains. So as a developer, if you're given a code base, which is pure plug and play for logics like networking, the transaction queue, and implementation of stuff like token balances even, which are already complete. And you just need to use these abstractions in form of traits like interfaces in other languages so that you can only focus on the business logic of your chain code by implementing the runtime. So for the team, for the developers, this greatly reduces the time to develop new blockchains from few months to just few weeks. So Polkadot is like the ecosystem that has been built on top of these workable and useful pieces of software. So it's safe to say that Polkadot is a product and Substrate and Rust are the tools that have been used to build it. Now, but that doesn't mean that Rust and Substrate are not product themselves. Obviously, these are the products built by their own teams. Now, before we proceed ahead on the actual development path of this, we, as part of Polkadot India, we are planning to have monthly Substrate Saturdays for learning the concepts and implementing those. We will be sharing a curriculum very soon and the GitHub repo for the regular updates. Now, in case if you have any questions, so please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Varun. That was truly an insightful foundation to start with. We'll definitely share any queries we get with from the members out here that you may resolve as best suited to mutually. But for all those who wish to have a one-on-one with Varun, stick around till the end of the Substrate Saturday and we can surely have a great interaction with Varun, right? On that note, time to get a little experiential in our journey. Our next speaker is simply outstanding. So most of us might have heard of Polkadex. Now, Polkadex is on its way to becoming a game changer in the world of launchpads, with Polka ideas automated to being fully on-chain, transparent, inexpensive, fair, and without the gas wars. Now, these are challenges for those who are in the game. They would know how hard it is. So that's something that Polkadex is solving for the rest of the world. So let's give it up for the executive director and co-founder of Polkadex himself, Vivek Prasannan. Welcome, Vivek. We are truly honored to have you with us this evening, and we're all ears. Over to you.
Hey, thank you, Ananya, and thanks, Sriharsha and Amit, everyone in the Polkadot India team. It's a pleasure to be here and meeting everyone. Well, I think it was a nice intro given by the previous speaker about Substrate, and maybe I can just give us brief background about myself. I'm a computer engineer, and I got my degree back in 2001. And I have been into IT consulting for close to 15 years before I started building and started focusing on building products. And more of that had to do with my the finding of Bitcoin accidentally back in 2013 when one of my friends during our discussion introduced me to one of these forums, and I learned about Bitcoin, and due to sheer curiosity that generally drives someone who is in a entrepreneurial path, I had to figure out what it was, and I started researching and reading a lot about it, and tried my experimenting with mining and all of that. So that's how the whole journey began with crypto and understanding how blockchain works and how distributed consensus algorithms can have long-term effects on the way a financial industry and the society at par would be affected, right? So I was keenly following many of the thought leaders during those days, and the primary one obviously is very famous. I think anybody who's new to blockchain should begin with Bitcoin, and then maybe you should go through Andreas Antonopoulos. Is one of the best books out there about mastering Bitcoins and the Internet of Money, where he proposed the idea of Bitcoin being the Internet of Money, and how it can actually create a more level playing field for creating a distributed way of storing and transferring value. So that's about the same time, I was also trying to trade or to acquire some Bitcoin and then to find out how it works. I was I tried to use some of those exchanges available at that time, and that's probably when the entire industry came to know about the inherent security issues with centralized exchanges. And in that respect, I was very keen to solve that problem, right, of this third-party custodial nature of centralized crypto exchanges that you see. Even in India, the popular exchanges are centralized, and many people do not know the inherent risks of storing crypto being a decentralized asset. The person who controls the private key has all the access to it, or the entire custody of that, or the ownership of that. And besides this, people still acquire crypto and leave them on the exchanges, knowing that there is no regulatory framework, even in India, to protect them from losing these assets. So that's been the main, the inspiration to go behind this problem. And initially, I started to solve it with BitShares, because BitShares was built around the idea of a decentralized exchange. I hope I'm audible, right?
You are.
Okay,
You are.
great, thanks. Okay, so BitShares was one of those exchanges started way back in 2015, founded by Dan Larimer, and I think he just left the project after a couple of years, but the seed idea was really inspiring for creating a trustless peer-to-peer trading system, where if you want to sell your bitcoins to another person, you don't really depend on this intermediary layer, right? So that's where the idea of decentralized trading began, and I started using BitShares. And the problem with those kind of exchanges um, where the speed of transaction, and that was a time when people were behind the transactions per second um, gaming mindset, where everybody was behind solving TPS. And finally, Vitalik, in one of the papers, he clearly described that it's a triangle where you generally have to sacrifice security for achieving higher transaction throughput. And it's basically a balancing act where the more complex your blockchain is, um, inherently it could be slower, or it could be less secure as well. That's why you have the obvious issues of hack in Ethereum smart contracts more than what you see in Bitcoin. And so basically, the my attempt did not take off. It had so many issues with developments and the whole infrastructure that I had in my mind. It just didn't work because you had to rely on centralized exchanges for creating assets with collateralized equivalent. I don't know how far technical this is, but you need to collateralize the equivalent amount of the layer one blockchain token to issue an asset, an equivalent asset, uh, to trade in those blockchains. So that's when, in 2019, I met my co-founders, and Gautam and Dipanj. They were working on a very interesting consensus algorithm. They're both from NIT Calicut, and it was using Lamport vector clocks instead of block time. Block time, they were using vector clocks. So it was really interesting for me, and right from then I knew that Gautam was a brilliant developer, and I really liked his passion in bringing something new to the industry. And we kept in touch for a long time, because initially I wasn't really keen on the technology alone, because I was more into use cases. And at some point, I think everybody came together. It is right about the time when the COVID situation worsened in India, and we decided to come together and use those know-how in building those consensus algorithms into a decentralized exchange, use case. And that's when, after a lot of research, Gautam came up with this idea of Polkadot and Substrate. Then I started researching about it, and I was really excited, because coming from something I worked in BitShares and with Graphene, the kind of modularity you had with um, architecting the whole blockchain by having absolute control over your block time, the idea of extrinsic, and the idea of the off-chain workers, and the runtime WASM environment. All of that was really groundbreaking. And following the, after research, you keep stumbling upon people in Web3 and Joanne Bennett's speech, and then Dr. Gavin Wood, and then you just get captivated and carried away by the whole vision, because it's beautiful that there are people who believe the same ideology and the philosophy at which Bitcoin and the original decentralized uh, you know uh, consensus, or the decentralized idea of having a trustless way of uh, communicating, and freeing people from this bonded system of having to rely upon uh, centralized parties that actually get absolute control over your data and the way they track your behavior. And the idea was to give back control to the people. And the vision is really good. If you haven't looked at one of those lectures, you should definitely go and view it, because it's very interesting. And so it was very natural to get sucked into that philosophy, and then you just keep reading and reading and reading. And then we just decided, yes, this is what we're going to build on, because it gives us all the control to actually play with the block time and all of that, minute control on building the blockchain. So the idea that we are discussing today is just a byproduct of whatever we were researching on, because the original idea was to create an order book which would behave exactly like a centralized exchange, but will give back custody of these assets to people who trade. And nobody will have to sacrifice the custody to a central custodian to allow these trades to go through. So that was the original idea of building Polkadex. And fortunately, I think we applied for a Web3 grant, and to everybody's information, even Gautam didn't have, because Gautam came from a Golang Python background. He did not even know about Rust. Even I didn't have any idea. So we started learning Rust back in, I think June, July 2020. And we just picked up speed, and Gautam, he was able to come up with a prototype by September. And we submitted that to Web3 Foundation. And bingo, we just got selected for the Open Grants program, because nobody was really keen to solve the order book problem. Because if you look back the history of how the decentralized exchanges have evolved over the years in crypto, you could see exchanges like Ether Delta and many others who tried and did not really gain traction for scaling the idea of order book based peer-to-peer decentralized trading. And so people were moving and shifting towards the bonding curve based AMM model, because Uniswap was a great success, and that was the way to be. And so people were more focused on bringing bonding curve based algorithm and bonding curve based decentralized exchanges to Polkadot. So we proposed a different idea, where we said we wanted to review the order book, and we want to bring that experience to Polkadot by making certain balances and sacrifices, but at the same time creating a decentralized peer-to-peer uncustodial exchange. And so Substrate, obviously, I think I don't have to go into technical details. I already mentioned the great control that you have in building a blockchain, unlike you build on a virtual machine based, as you see in Ethereum. It's much more easier. You have a template that you can actually start off and fine tune based on your requirements. And if you look at the core features that we're building, especially with the backup and the way the blockchain rolls back the state of the blockchain, using off-chain workers as a external monitoring system with IPFS, I think it's really, really cool. It was possible only because of its Substrate. None of the others, it was definitely it's going to be possible. So it's really great that we could do that. And the idea, coming back to that, so we had our own idea with Polka Starter, one of the really good platforms out there for our distribution of tokens, because we had to start distributing tokens to make the system decentralized to a point before we launched the mainnet. And we faced a lot of difficulty on Ethereum. And if you ask me, we spent close to $50,000 just to have the smart contracts listed and executed on Ethereum for the distributing our tokens. And many of the people couldn't participate because of the rising gas fees. All of a sudden there was a huge interest, and the gas fees went up, and there are people who paid $1,000+ and simply couldn't get an allocation. And we are still fighting the scars of that event. And what we did was basically going back and doing our homework of how to avoid this situation from happening in the future. And that's when we thought, see, it doesn't really take great time to create an IDO like that, because we are anyway neck deep with Substrate, and creating a logic palette for doing this shouldn't take us long. So we thought, because our primary R&D was on order book and the Polka pool, which was much more difficult to build, this one was much more easier. So we just allocated a couple of engineers for that. And we also thought that if you look at the entire stack, IDO is a great way to launch new tokens that comes out of in Polkadot ecosystem. Plus, they can have a natural progression onto an order book, which we are anyway building, right? So we thought it's good to go behind that problem and create a platform that will allow projects to list without a lot of hassles that we have kind of getting centralized, in my opinion, because many of these platforms are driven by centralized decision making and profiteering, right? So at some point it becomes very prohibitive it becomes like a club. You need to have so many tokens and so much of money to actually even participate. It's like a mini VC culture. So we wanted to change that and just give something to think about, like a protocol release to the community. It's like a protocol release. We have absolutely no control. It's completely going to be governed by the governance tokens, and the community will manage that. So the good thing is you can basically control the amount of tokens you need to have for participating, and also for the amount of tokens that each project have to stake to get listed. And governance can even curate these projects from. That's another thing, an advantage that comes with Substrate when you compare that with Uniswap. In Uniswap, anybody can list any tokens, but here you have another palette which actually gives you control over, if somebody applies for listing, governance can take over and say, hey, we don't allow you to list because you are a scam. It's something can be done. That way, there's some level of filter is also there. Plus, there is nothing like the kind of gas war you see in Ethereum, because it's much more application specific. There are not a lot of other transactions happening on that chain, right? It's dedicated for that. It happens on the basic native Polkadex chain, which is relatively free compared, because it's a very application specific blockchain. It can handle all those transactions very easily. So it can grow in the long run. So yeah, so that's why we came up with that. It was basically an idea that came because we just who will be governing? People who stake tokens in the governance palette. Yeah, so somebody asked. Okay, so that's about that. And obviously we have our mainnet launch happening end of this month. On 26th is the technical launch. The official launch will be on 29th. We wanted to give a couple of days to stabilize before we announce. And we have the IDO will be the first thing to go live as a product. And then Polka Pool is another idea. I don't know whether I should venture out into all that. Amit, up to you. I mean, otherwise I can just maybe take any questions and go from there.
You could totally do that. In fact, it would be pretty interesting to learn.
Do we have any questions for Vivek?
If not, I can elaborate more on the.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so what even I was saying, Vivek, would be actually pretty interesting. So you could continue, and maybe in about 5 minutes' time, we'll start taking questions.
Sure. I can maybe. Yeah. So governance is basically. Is there any part of the governance? Yeah, I am seeing that. Yeah.
Great.
Hey, Naveen. Is there any part of the governance decided by the team and not by the token holder? No. Team will have one vote, as in any other, governance. So basically, it will be I think there will be 13 votes. That's what I remember. Probably Gautam can give more detailed spec on that. So it will be nominated, and you have to stake your stake tokens, and people who stake maximum number of tokens can actually be part of the governance ballot, and you can have a voting right, and that's how it goes. It's just like how normal governance, take place in a proof of stake chain. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was asking that specifically for a regulatory thing. It would be challenging if you guys had controlling.
Oh yeah, of course, yes. That's why we wanted to leave it alone. We wanted to just give it as a protocol release. We don't want to take any responsibility for, who's doing what. It's like something like Uniswap. Of course, but
Awesome.
you may have repercussions, but yeah, let's deal with it when it comes up. I can say a bit about how Polka Pool is different, because we have three products actually, not just Polka IDO. We have Polka IDO and we have the Polka Pool, which is the bonding curve version, as you see in Uniswap. But none of the problems that you see in Uniswap today. I mean, in the sense that the primary issue of Uniswap is that many of the tokens that gets listed in Uniswap gets front run by the bots. And if you have a smart market maker playing behind the scene, the new investors can just suck out of liquidity, and they will get, they'll be really ripped off. I mean, they can lose a lot of money. If you look at the graph of a newly launched, any new launched token in Uniswap, it is like a big U, right? Because all of these front-end tokens will, keep pushing the money and keep pushing the price up, and you keep paying more, and you effectively lose a lot of money. So Polka Pool is aimed to avoid that by again using Substrate. Substrate is one of the palettes because it allows you to have on-chain randomness in the for the transactions in runtime, where you cannot deterministically say which transaction will get executed even if you pay more fees. Basically, there is no fees in Polka Pool. Basically, you have an equivalent, the price being paid by the amount of tokens you stake. So the amount of token you have to stake to get a free transaction will be determined by the network, determined by the way exactly how Ethereum handles, in terms of you have more number of transactions to compete with, you may have to stake more number of token, but you only do staking. So staking comes as a, somebody has to pay, right? So staking is the price they pay to actually let these transactions go as gas free. And once the transaction gets executed, you can actually take your money back, and you basically effectively have a feeless system. And since the transactions are shuffled using on-chain randomness, there is no way someone can front run by paying high gas fees. So it eliminates two of these problems. And Polka Pool is also it's also a protocol release where the Polkadex, the exchange team, has absolutely no access to it.
Vivek, a quick question.
Sure.
Given, okay, so if I look at Ethereum, Uniswap would be the primary platform on Ethereum. They're sitting at about a 13 billion market cap. And if the way I see it, Polkadex is potentially the primary platform coming up for DOT, would you agree? As of now, you would have competitors like PolkaSwap, for example. And you're currently sitting at about $55 million market cap. So what is the one thing, if you were to point out, what is the one thing that you're lacking in comparison from Uniswap to probably hit that market cap, for example?
There's nothing lacking except the time, right? You need to have, first thing is that you need to have sufficiently decentralized network to actually launch these products, which will happen in the next few months, right? And comparing market caps against Uniswap, an established protocol, would be, I think it's too early to compare us against any of these, big market cap, protocols. So what we need to focus on solving the problem and allow the market to take care of itself. If people want to use it, they will use it. If people want to shun it, they will shun it. They'll tell you the truth. What you're building is, a meme coin or something And we focus on building something useful. And I really hope that it's useful for the community because it's something really needed because I've traded myself and I would really want to trade on a platform like that. And that's what we are building for. So
that's exactly what I was looking for, because like you said, Uniswap has held the test of time. But again, from a solution perspective, if you're already addressing most of everything that Uniswap is doing, it's just a matter of time. As the user base builds up, you'd be pretty much headed in that direction as well. That's what I was looking for too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, this is Raj. Vivek, fantastic. Thanks. And I think appreciate, and it's quite exciting that you're trying to level the playing field for retail as well as sort of institutional investors. So I think that's really great. My question is around, are you planning to launch only on Polkadot, or are you doing anything with Kusama at all?
No, we're going straight for the Polkadot auctions. Because for a product like ours, which is very, very, what do you say, with a very direct interface with regulatory systems, like because we are going for institutional engagement in the Polkadex order book. So we don't want to have because Polkadot is more going to be the stable relay chain in the system. So we do not want to have run on Kusama. We'll go directly for Polkadot auctions.
And you plan to enter the first set of auctions for Polkadot?
If not, the second one, because first would definitely be we have at least 5 projects which have been waiting for 2 years, 3 years. Yeah, it's fine. We can go for the second option, no problem.
Great.
But
good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry.
Hello, Vivek. I have a quick question. Am I audible?
Hey, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me.
The one thing about DEXs that really fascinates me is the opportunity with bots and flash node arbitrage. So, like, what kind of opportunity can we expect with your DEX?
Well, Sahil, we are focused on building the infrastructure. So building the tools is just 5% of the job, I would say. Okay, so if you can get a tech stack ready, up and running, creating all of these things is not going to take a long time. And we are anyway creating a demo for the trading bots to start testing on our testnet with the order book. Sometime in October, we should be coming up with the release. So we already have great interest from leading trading bot systems. Like we're already in talks with Hummingbot. We'll anyway integrate Hummingbot because it's open source. We can do it ourselves. They just have to accept into their governance. So we'll just get into the system. And we are also talking to 3Commerce. It's a very good bunch of people because we are also registered as a company in Estonia, and 3Commerce is out of Estonia. So I think they are going to be also one of our good partners if it comes along, and they'll be part of the testnet.
Awesome. Do you have any plans to collab with all these lending protocols like Aave in the future? Like that, gives a whole new, exposure to, lending and then swapping of tokens,
Yeah, I think we have our own method to actually attract liquidity to the system. Basically, we would like to reward people who provide liquidity to the order book, and it's designed using a combination of natural inflation and the treasury system, and it's part of the yield curve that we have, but it's separate from the other people. And because every blockchain is trying to attract users to by giving them more interest yields. So we can definitely partner, but there has to be synergy on what is actually we are sharing each other. If there is anything of a synergy, definitely we should do that. We will do that. But definitely for order book, the idea is, in order book, we have market makers, and it would be like if you lock your funds, you can choose a market maker or trader and just put your signature on and leave it there, and they would market make for you, and you will get a cut from their profit. So that's something new that's going to happen in the Polkadex order book, which kind of really transparent and cool, because there's actually something really value generating there, rather than you just paying people out of your inflation and your blockchain has no other use case other than just inflating and just giving out tokens. Out of what? You really have to create value, right? Somebody has to pay for it. And if you simply create a blockchain and say that it's inherently deflationary and just keep rewarding these people with a supply system that is kind of closed, it's not sustainable, right? You have to create value out of these blockchains, right? So in our system, the good thing is that we have different applications that drives value, that creates value, which attracts people to come and make profit, which creates velocity of the token. And so naturally, when you get rewarded in such a system, it is more sustainable, and there is no other, magic there.
Vivek, from our front, very curious to know that how did you go about building this community or creating that interest, or what did you say to keep them coming back for you? Like, how did you go about building that network to keep supporting you?
Yeah, I think we have one of the best, I wouldn't say best, but very good marketing team. We have a very good marketing team. And on top of the fact that we've been very sincere in our language, in what we are trying to do, there is no hype at all. Everybody knows what we are building, nothing more, nothing less. And we are delivering our timelines, and we are sticking to our roadmap, even though there has been certain delay with the change in architecture and everything. Everybody knows that that change was actually towards the vision or where we want to get, why we made that change. So every time it has been very transparent in communicating with the community on what we are doing. Whenever we make a change or delay, there is a specific reason for that. It's not because that some of our engineers left, or it's like some problem on our side. No, it's purely had to do with the technology sometimes that we depend on. When you build an open source, you depend on third-party technologies. Like, for example, we initially depended on Snowfork for their relayers for bringing tokens from Ethereum trustlessly, right? Mm-hmm. So when there was a delay on their side, we had to shut that, wait till they release an audited code before we can start using it. So apart from these kind of things which are inherent in the ecosystem by sharing technology, apart from that, I don't think we have done anything that is so people can see what we're doing, right? And right from the start, if you're following us from September, we've had many releases. It's not like we didn't do anything. In December, we had the first release of the testnet, and we also showcased how an on-chain order book would behave in Substrate for the first time. If it was on-chain, that was a speed. Everybody could see that day, and I even did a demo, and it's in YouTube. So. We could see that it's not going to work. It's just going to be another either delta, So we just changed our architecture, and we told why we changed it. We came up with new protocols, and we told why we are doing it. We have extensive literature on that. If you go to Medium, we told exactly why we are doing. So openly and transparently communicating, I think people just understand, because we just didn't pretend. We just told people what we are doing. That's it. So I think that's been the biggest. I don't see any other reason why we have a good community now. Yeah.
Fabulous. So I personally am quite at a loss of words to close that, but I'm sure all of you dreaming to build your own little empire got a little bit of fresh food for thought. Thanks so much, Vivek. That was truly a fresh perspective. It was a great journey to relive on, and a very simple one. Like you said, you kept it grounded, you kept it real, you communicated what was going on. It's as simple as that. Moving on, speaker at over 300 conferences and a former Quake 3 Arena and World of Warcraft pro player. We give you Fred Antunes, the CEO and dream shaper of Real Fever, a Portuguese sports tech company for fantasy sports and blockchain NFTs. Excited, standing tall today as the board president of the Portuguese Blockchain and Cryptocurrencies Association. Fred, we're sure we we are really glad to have you over here, and we can't wait to hear all you have to share with us. So welcome from all of us here and the Polkadot team. Blow us away, please. Fred, over to you.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Great pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all. And Vivek, congratulations for the marvelous job that you are doing in Polkadex. I've heard the whole presentation, and I'm really looking forward to future developments. Regarding to Real Fever, we started the project in 2015. Not exactly using blockchain technology or not even thinking about crypto economy. We just started a startup to bring a multi-billion-dollar business from United States, call it fantasy sports, to Europe, and specifically to implement it in the football world. So in the first 5 years, we did not invest anything in terms of high-end technology. We were a centralized platform based in Ruby on Rails. We deployed 2 mobile applications in App Store and Google Play. We reached around 1.2 million users just for playing fantasy sports. And fantasy sports, for those who do not know what is it, fantasy sports is just a football manager based in real data. So what you just choose a team of 15 players, and the player's performance in the field, in the live game, it will reflect in points, and those points, the one who gets more points will be the winner. So if you want to try out the application, we have it running. It is called Real Fever. And if you check your mobile App Store or Google Play, you can try it out. Well, then there was a huge challenge, which was after 5 years, we were not making that much money, because fantasy sports is really something very complicated to monetize, especially when you cannot use or implement money leaks. So money leaks is a business completely over-regulated in Europe, and without it, there is not that much solutions to monetize a platform, even with 1 million users, like the one we built. So with that said, last year, I just realized that the idea about NBA Top Shot was just fantastic. And what we did was to meet with multiple right holders in the football world. And let me share my screen also to take you like in a guided tour over our website. What happened was, okay, if they are doing this for basketball, and with the strong connections that we have in the football world, why can't we do this for football? And thinking about sports, football is much bigger and has a much bigger global distribution than basketball. So what we did was we secured more than 20 years of video rights, not only from the Portuguese National League, but from some other ones. And we just created our packs and our drops, and I'm going to share my screen. Basically, when you visit Real Fever, what you get is, first of all, Bruno Fernandes, one of the top world-class players in the world and one of the best in Premier League, plays in Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes is our official sponsor. And when you open our website, I would say the business model and the process is quite simple. So what we sell upfront is packs, and packs in Europe and United States, packs have been in the market for the last, I would say, 70 to 80 years. So even in my young age, I used to collect packs and stickers of multiple things. but also about football. And the idea was when you open a pack, basically what you get is video moments, and video moments from the best goals, best defenses, best assists, tackles of quite a few of the best players in the world, football players, of course. And for example, if you go to top sales, I can show you, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo. In fact, we are the only ones in the world with official videos of Cristiano, which is a very good thing. And if you open the moment, basically what happens is you see the goal and everything works 100% on chain. So we collect zero data of our users. We don't have any kind of login or any other thing. Everything is Web3 based. So what you have to do is just to connect your wallet, and you operate the whole Fever ecosystem with just your MetaMask or Trust Wallet if you want. Regarding to the visuals, something that sometimes we do not speak, but I want to speak about it. We tried really to bring a beautiful and delightful UI UX experience to our users. Of course, there is a lot to improve. There is a lot to move forward, but when you visit our websites and when you navigate over the pages and the moments and everything, we tried really to create a very good and impressive, immersive experience, let's say. And compare to our biggest competitors, community was very delighted with what we gave them, not only in terms of the content, but the UI UX and the whole design and interface. What am I missing? Fever token, yeah. So we also deployed the Fever token. I'm not the guy who likes to speak about tokens. In fact, I like to speak about product because I'm obsessed to product delivering and ability to execute. But I think it makes sense to give you a clear picture about what we do with Fever. So Fever, the idea of Fever was always, to bring some hardcore utility for a new token, in the same way that when you visit Disneyland, I have this memory from a young age also. When I visited Disneyland, for you to interact with the attractions, you need to have a card with Disney credits. And you don't pay the attractions with euros, you interact with the attractions inside Disneyland with Disney credits. So the idea about Fever token is more or less like this one, which is to interact with the whole real Fever ecosystem. You need Fever token. So Fever has multiple utilities. Not all of them are already implemented, but we will implement it over our roadmap. But basically, the Fever utility is to buy packs, to trade moments. Then you have subscription pools, which is more or less like a staking pool. The club's launchpad, and then the peer-to-peer NFT lending and the fantasy token leagues. The fantasy token leagues is something that we are already developing. So it is one of the best ways, in fact, to corner the over-regulated money leagues market. And because of that, we are going to explore that possibility too. Also, eventually we need to update this because now we are developing like a card game to our users to bring more utility to all of the NFTs. And of course, the card game is like a mixture between 3 different roles: Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, and a bit of Gods Unchained. So we are all hardcore gamers in Real Fever, and personally myself too. So we will try to deliver not only a play-to-earn experience to our users, but more than that, we want to create something that will stimulate your addiction to play and to challenge your friends. And when you invite your friends, you will be proud of inviting them, because the game itself, not only the mechanics, but the visuals will be pretty much amazing. And it is what we are trying to do. For future developments, at this stage, we are dropping our second drop in the end of the month, probably in 30 of September. And the biggest highlight of that drop will be the first ever goal of Cristiano Ronaldo in his professional career. That one will be a unique. So I think it will be a very nice thing for you to eventually try out to have it. And that's it. I would love to reply to and answer to whatever question you have.
Do
Hi.
you have any questions? Yeah.
Yep, a question specifically because I was working on something very similar myself. How are you, given that you're working with player-based NFTs, how are you managing the licensing around it? Because based on how legally, there's two things. You can't use the names and visual likeness of players in the NFTs, for example. How are you managing that in the fantasy games?
In fact, we can manage everything because we have official licenses from the right holders. So, as I said, we are a 6 years old company of existence. And in the beginning, when we deployed our application, one of the first initial partnerships that we set up was with the Portuguese National Football League. After that, we became partners of the Portuguese Football Federation. And in our network, we have access to media broadcasters. And basically, it is with media broadcasters that I deal daily basis, not only in the business perspective, but in fact, more in a personal perspective. We are really, really close friends, I would say. And they are super engaged with what we are doing in Real Fever. So I know that in a lot of crypto projects, people try, to surf the wave using players' images and everything else. In fact, there is no one doing videos, because if they do videos, they are not dealing with individual players. They are dealing with superpower media companies. Yep. And it is that media companies that we deal with. So in terms of compliance, I would say Real Fever is one of the most bulletproof projects in the crypto space, for sure.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So what's the kind of calculations that you go into while deciding which keys are going to have what kind of weightage in terms of rarity? Is it the player's profile, or are there other considerations also?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Amit. Thank you. We have in Real Fever today, we are 52 persons, internal, in-sourced. And one of the most important teams of Real Fever is the game mechanics and the mathematics behind what we do. So because of our background in fantasy leagues, as you know, there is a lot of mathematics and mechanics behind the exactly same game architect that we have. When we started to build the drops, we tried to balance very well, how many commons, how many specials, how many epics, how many legendaries. And since the beginning, we will have one unique for sure. Now, the criteria to decide where each player goes, it's very simple. 3 things. So first one, how impressive is the moment, if it is a great goal or not. So if you see there are no legendaries or uniques that are not fantastic goals, I would say. Second thing, the importance of the player. So I'm not going to put Cristiano Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes in a common, because they are completely on the top level. And the third thing, sometimes we have some players that they are not that much, famous worldwide, but they have huge communities of millions of followers in specific countries. I give you one example. James Rodriguez is the player that has more social media followers in South America. So James Rodriguez probably is not the player that everybody knows from the football world, but if you want to penetrate South American markets, which includes Brazil is like even a continent, not a country, James Rodriguez is a must. So that's the criteria when we try to balance the things: social media engagement, the eminence of the athlete, and of course, the execution of the goal or the defense or the quality of the moment, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question from my side, SD Samantra. Can I am audible?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I joined late, so just wanted to know how this revenue is earned on this system, because I may be a little late to put this question, but still I have this query: how you generate money out of it?
Okay, very simple. We generate money in two different revenue streams. First revenue stream when we sell packs. So in our first drop, we sold in less than 4 minutes $1 million in packs, and in 26 hours everything was sold out with 1.6 million in revenue. The second one is from the marketplace fees. So if I share with you, let me just share it with you like once again. So if you open, so we have the packs, 30th of September, you will be able to buy a pack if you want. So we have the packs, you make money from the packs, and also we make money from the marketplace. So every time you trade a moment in our marketplace, for example, let me open this one from Julio Cesar. Every time you trade a moment, there are two fees. First one, right holder's fee, royalty of 2%, and 2% of service fee of the marketplace. So everything that is traded here, we take 2% to ourselves, and the right holder takes also 2% for them. So we have a model where it's not a permanent recurring model, which are the packs, and then we have the monthly recurring revenue or the daily recurring revenue, in fact, which is the marketplace fees.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I have like a quick question. Yeah, so since you guys have a license for this, so that's next gen, first of all. Congratulations on that. If I am holding one of your NFT, does that give me royalty too? And the second thing is, like, even I'm a huge gamer, I like play to earn aspects of blockchain games. There's this one game I play where I can stake my NFTs to earn their native token. So like, since you guys have a token, do you guys plan to have like staking NFTs so that we can earn your native token? Yeah, this is a question. Thanks.
Yes, one of the improvements that we are going to do, I'm going to share once again. One of the improvements that we are going to add to the marketplace in the My Collection section is in the collection side, you will have multiple challenges to achieve. So if you are the one who has all the commons or all the specials, all the epics, all the legendaries, all the unique, you will collect, you will be rewarded in tokens. And also, if you stake a certain amount of NFTs, you will be also being, rewarded for that. So the idea is not only to create a direct staking option, but instead of that, the idea is to gamify the NFT staking. So I would say we will need at least 30 days more to deploy everything. but the first thing that we will improve is really the my collection side. So today everything is dumped without that much organization, and the next feature that we will deploy is really this one, to let you organize your collection, and you will have multiple achievements when you collect.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Fred? No? Okay, Fred, I can't believe and begin to tell you how exciting it all sounds, and at the same time, pretty intimidating too. Thank you for making it seem a little simpler than it actually seems. We are open to all queries, guys, especially in the NFT zone, and especially for Fred with us over here. Do get in touch and we'll get our lovely Fred to sort us out, right? And as hectic and as pushy that we may seem right now, let's hear it from our next blockchain leader. Thanks, Fred. It was really great having you around. And yeah, we'll definitely get in touch once we have people over here troubling us to trouble you further, right? Yeah.
Thanks very much once again. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Fred.
And we keep in touch. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure, thank you.
And welcome to the family over here.
On behalf of the Polkadot India team, we wish Real Fever and everything that's in store, your entire team, the very best. You've built a fantastic product, and wishing you splendid success ahead. Any plans you have in India, please let us know.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We keep in touch. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks. So great, guys. Well, let me take you to our next part of the evening. So at 24 years of age, Munjal Shah was often hosting founders for talks like these in his house parties, right? One such founder was even Vitalik Buterin, working on his idea that would eventually become Ethereum, right? So let's learn a little bit about Munjal Shah's incredible journey and his vision for us Indian crypto and blockchain enthusiasts, and for those who are a little more serious about building the real projects too. So let's learn about how to really impress our investors, and let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Munjal, really glad to have you around, and yeah, help us impress you and your likes. Over to you, Munjal.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Ananya, for the introduction. So just as Ananya mentioned, my name is Munjal Shah, and I'm an angel investor in crypto. I've been fortunate enough to have roles in both business development and investor relations at prominent infrastructure companies like Akash, which is decentralized cloud computing, and Alchemy API, which is a node management infrastructure project. So today I'd like to discuss the art and science of seed or angel investing. Quick question for a poll. How many people here, I'm not sure how I'd be able to see this. Maybe I'll change the view to gallery. And maybe you could just use the reaction button for the thumbs up. How many people here are engineers?
We can all click on our reaction button on our Zoom tab and click on the thumbs up sign.
Wonderful. I'm seeing a bunch of thumbs up and hands up. That's great. Thank you. And how many people here are aspiring entrepreneurs? You can just leave the thumbs up if you'd like. Great. Wow. What a great collection of people you put together, Amit and Ananya. Great. So my last question is, how many people here have ever invested into crypto and IDO, which is an initial DEX offering, an ICO, which is an initial coin offering, or a parachain auction, which is what Polkadot or Kusama calls their ICOs essentially. Okay, great. Wow. Okay, so pretty experienced group here. All right, so I just wanted to share a little bit about my own story. So investing in crypto is very, very similar to striking gold in the wild, wild west. San Francisco or Silicon Valley's football team, this is American football, it's called the 49ers. And the reason they're called the 49ers is because in 1849, hundreds of thousands of people moved to California to mine, hoping to strike gold. And during this time, all of the industries that launched, including the shovels, axes, and even the denim jeans that many of you may be wearing or not wearing, since this is a Zoom meeting, and we can get away without wearing pants, were launched overnight to support this new industry of digging for gold. So this story is very much similar to my own journey as a seed stage investor. So I just want to share a few personal anecdotes. So I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm actually coming live right now from New York, from Manhattan, New York. And I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, where I'd say it's a little bit conservative for my risk appetite and high pain tolerance. So I always felt this instinct to move out to Silicon Valley back when Steve Jobs was just reigning over Apple. And so after graduating from university and working a corporate job for 3 years, I just quit my job and moved to San Francisco. Left my comfortable corporate job to move into a house with about 60 engineers and aspiring entrepreneurs, very much like yourselves here. In Silicon Valley. And it was not the most luxurious place to live, for sure. It was kind of like moving back into a college dorm room. And so I went back to the grind. I was just grinding in tech sales in Silicon Valley for 2 to 3 years, having to make about 60 calls a day selling SaaS products, hoping to somehow strike gold. And that's where I received my training, I guess you'd say the 10,000 hours in learning for how to communicate and how to deal with rejection. So eventually I learned the art and science of sales. And this is where I learned my first lesson, find the decision maker. Very similar to receiving allocations into pre-sales or pre-ICOs. You really need to find founders and rub shoulders with them early on, which it seems like you're already doing based off of the collection of folks that are here already. And just be ready to fund them after you've seen them grinding for years. This is the exact mentality that I took when being fortunate enough to have been the first check into Akash Network, which I'll get into a little bit more later. But you really need to find the founders and just be at the right place at the right time. So while Silicon Valley was the right place to be in 2014 and 2015, India is now the place to be, in my opinion. You guys are all the entrepreneurs and engineers of the future. So it just starts with building your core network, because after all, your network is your net worth. So while in Silicon Valley, I was really just surrounding myself by the smartest people that I could find possibly. And it happened to be that they were all focused on Bitcoin and blockchain technology. So I took this as a sign and began to organize weekly tech talks where I invited prominent entrepreneurs, such as the founders of Dogecoin, Ethereum, Kraken Exchange, and Polkadot, most of whom I met by attending conferences and networking with the speakers. That's definitely something I would recommend to everyone here, is to network with the speakers as much as possible. Usually there's a reason that they're speaking at conferences, and so that's who I honed in on speaking with. And then I'd invite them to my house, where we had 60 entrepreneurs and 60 aspiring entrepreneurs and engineers. And just through this, I had these fireside chats. And from there, I was able to build my network and really just learn from the top entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. So it was very much so like getting an on the ground MBA, if I were to call it that. And so there, I started to learn that being an entrepreneur was very different from the environment that I was raised in. Entrepreneurs come from a very different mold. They have this, I always had to grind, but what they had that I didn't have at the time was this growth mindset, this just belief of abundance, right? And, coming from my family being immigrants in the US, I wasn't used to this. I was more used to a fixed mindset. And so the growth mindset is definitely something that I look for when funding entrepreneurs. And so at this juncture, once I had a strong enough network of entrepreneurs, I started to kind of build my own thesis as to what type of entrepreneurs I wanted to fund. And that it also helped at the time. Luck is a big factor, and it happened to help that my average cost of Ethereum was my entry point was between like $2 and $25. Which may sound like a no-brainer now, but back then very few people even knew about it. My dad told me to sell it back when I think it went from $8 to $10, and I just I guess I didn't listen to him, thankfully. And so at that point, I was able to build and join a syndicate of very prominent, I guess, just early investors in Ethereum. And that also happened to be when the ICO hype was taking place in 2017. So at this point, it was up to determine which projects we wanted to invest in. And to be honest, I'm not a technologist. I was trained in chemistry and psychology. So I'm actually a psychologist by training. So I did definitely depend heavily on my friends and colleagues who are engineers to evaluate the project's potential. But what I was able to do in filtering out entrepreneurs was almost determine whether they actually believed deeply in what they were building, right? Being a salesperson, I learned that I knew how to give good pitches and I knew how to hear good pitches, but there's a difference between being able to say a good pitch and truly believing it. And that's probably what one of my, I guess I'd say, differentiating factors is that I can really just look into a person's eye and get a true understanding for whether they actually believe in what they're doing. And once I determined that, actually, funny enough, early on, I did have an interview with Binance in late 2017, and I didn't believe their head of business development at the time. And he didn't end up staying there for very often. But the point is when you're early enough into an industry, you can also get very lucky. So it's important to differentiate between, do you actually believe in this founder, and does that founder believe in themselves? And that's kind of where the growth mindset really plays a big difference. So I kind of got off of my notes there, so I'm just going to figure out where I landed. Okay. So the next thing is that a person's character really made a big difference. San Francisco is a very small 3-by-4 mile area with the highest per capita billionaires in the world. So the investment community there is also very small as a whole. And we all know each other. So when a new project launches, we talk and we check in on one another. And we happen to, when it comes to determining how much we're going to invest into a project and whether we're going to invest or not, we do lean heavily on the co-investor that has the strongest relationship with that entrepreneur. And that relationship is usually built through years of knowing the individual and also seeing them grind without any outcome for a number of years, because that's usually what it takes to successfully launch a product, an end project. So for example, our syndicate that invested in Polkadot, the value of it's probably worth over $100 million right now, but our average cost entry point into Polkadot at the time was only 18 cents. So what really differentiated those entrepreneurs? It was resiliency. I liken resiliency as to what I call the golden ratio. And the golden ratio is simply the number of times that a person's had life served to them on a silver platter, divided by the number of times that you've gotten your ass kicked, very simply. And if your ratio is greater than 1, that usually doesn't fit my investment thesis. And a good use case here would be Akash, the decentralized cloud compute project. So the CEO of Akash, Greg Osuri, at the time was very, very new to blockchain. He was a very strong engineer with a background in design engineering with Kubernetes and containerization, but he wasn't at the time familiar with crypto markets. It took him about 2 years to actually understand how crypto markets operate, and he had a very steep learning curve. During that time, a lot of his, he did a small seed round, but he couldn't even afford to keep a lot of the team around, and so he just kept grinding on his own. And in crypto, there are plenty of scams, so he could have left. He didn't have to keep going forward, but that's his resiliency and what we like to call at Secure Capital, his cockroach mentality of never giving up and essentially refusing to die, right? Cockroaches have been around since before dinosaurs, is part of the reason that Akash is as successful as it is today, in addition to why at Secure Capital we have such a strong thesis on India and Indian entrepreneurs. So the fact that this entire room is filled with potential entrepreneurs out of India gets me extremely excited. And I just wanted to give a quick plug before I forget to, if anyone is interested in sharing their ideas, I'd love to hear them. You can reach out to me over email at Munjal, that's MUNJAL at secureware.capital. And so, as I was just saying, I really do give all the credit to Greg. He grinded through the bear markets. He worked really, really hard, and a sane person would have given up, but he refused to give up. And that's why we're so bullish on India's market as a whole. And as a huge untapped market for not only the Polkadot ecosystem as a whole, but also for the core engineers that we have in India, because blockchain is a very young industry. I think so. Gavin, who's the founder of Polkadot, wrote Ethereum in a matter of a week or a couple of days, the first version of it. And so clearly the infrastructure is not a lot of growth has happened since then, but it's still a very nascent industry. And what we really need to take the industry to the next level of growth and scalability are the core infrastructure engineers that India has a plethora of. So that's just a quick background on myself. And so right now I'm a GP at Secureware Capital, which is partnered with Galaxy Digital, which is founded by billionaire Mike Novogratz. And so right now what we're doing is we are scouting India for seed investments via a small $10 million emerging markets fund. And so if anyone's interested in sharing just their project with us, please feel free to send me an email or contact Amit. And my goal and passion at this point is more to connect India's entrepreneurs to capital in the West. I think that's where I can probably provide the most value. And we do have a strong team that conducts technical diligence as well. So I hope that wasn't too long, and I'm happy to kind of open up the conversation for any questions people might have.
Do we have? Yeah.
Oh, the other thing I would recommend to everyone is be the first person to raise your hand. It means that you'll never be forgotten. That's something I always did at conferences. Even though I'd ask the dumbest question possible, I broke the ice and people always remembered me.
This is
so yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there are so many VCs in the crypto arena now. When you look in the hindsight, when you started, there were not many VCs and not many known projects. So I understand you went through a grind, but it was easy to give money and for the projects to find VCs to take money from them. But in the current scenario where you have a lot many VCs out there ready to provide a lot of money, and almost everybody has similar value proposition, what they bring to the table. What would you suggest to any budding VCs or about to be established VCs who have money and who are trying to make connections with the founders and all that? How would you suggest they carve themselves out from the other VCs? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, let me just take a moment to think about it. So the question is how to differentiate yourself as a VC and how to build your own connections. I would say the first thing is probably sharing deal flow with other VCs, right? The way you want to go about doing it is to enter into the relationships where other VCs already have established relationships. And so there's a number of ways you can go about it, right? The relationship route is probably the easiest way to begin your initial conversations. And then it really comes down to providing a certain type of expertise, right? Whether it's help, it really is about doubling down on your strength as well, right? So if you happen to be an engineer yourself, you can help provide architecture to individuals, to new entrepreneurs. If you happen to have relationships yourself within the industry, you can help cultivate that relationship with the founder. And also is from token economics. So there's a number of areas that you can provide value in. And I would say just really double down on what your expertise is already and start within your existing network and tap into your existing network of founders and just talk to them. Just have quick 15, 20-minute coffee, well, whatever the equivalent of that is today, of a Zoom coffee meeting with someone, and just pick their brain. Just ask them where they need help and don't look to provide capital up front, right? Instead, just try to double down on your strength and help the entrepreneur, and eventually it'll come back tenfold. That's the feedback I would give.
Thanks so much, Munjal. Thanks.
Sure, no problem. Surendra, I do see your hand up.
Hi, yeah. Hi, Munjal. This is Surendra here. Just a quick one. You said that we can contact you. So is there an email address or a contact number, or I mean, if either of that would be really helpful? I've got a project which I would like to contact with you in future.
Yeah, no problem. I am writing it into the chat box right now. Did you happen to receive that?
I can see that. That's really great. And it's really glad to hear your experiences. It's really helpful. Thanks.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you. Devi Chart.
Hello. Hi, Munjal.
Hello.
Am I audible? Yeah. So, like, I really like this concept of venture capitals, but like, to be honest, you need a lot of connections and, upfront investment to start your own venture capital, which for an individual like me or a normal person is very hard, right? So like recently I got into a community-based venture capital, which is basically an aspiring DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. So it's more like a community-based venture capital where like there's a core team and they're like a management team on the second tier, and there is the community. So like I get to learn a lot of things from a aspiring DAO like investment venture capital like that. So like, what are your thoughts on that kind of a venture capital model compared to a centralized venture capital model? Yep.
Interesting. A decentralized. So how are decisions made? Is there like a vote? Does everyone have tokens?
It's a pretty new community now. Like they don't have a DAO till now. We are talking about building a DAO. So like I think we'll be using Argon to build the DAO. So basically, there's a core team. They operate they talk to the investors and they have strategic and they specifically invest in strategic rounds. And there's this management team which is in tier 2 where they manage the remaining community and they get a little bit of extra allocation more than the third tier. And the third tier works in the marketing of the whole venture capital. So basically it's like a DAO structure where there's 3 tiers, and the first tier is the one who makes like the majority of the decisions, and second tier and the third tier are like the supportage of the first tier. Yeah, that's basically it.
Interesting. I'm not aware of that funding model as a whole. So if you could, maybe I'd be interested if you could email me about that structure. It's just not something I'm familiar with as a whole, and I didn't want to comment on it unless I had some value to add, and I'm unsure of that right now. But from what I'm hearing so far, it sounds like a great place to learn, right? Given that it's a DAO, I bet they would show a lot of their diligence and why they're choosing to invest in specific deals. So if I were to see, let's say 10 projects that they were evaluating, I would almost create my own spreadsheet of variables as to what differentiated each project and why they ended up choosing to invest in particular projects or not. What I like about this is that it doesn't seem super capital intensive for you as an individual who's aspiring to be in a VC. So you can almost learn based off of which projects do end up succeeding and which don't, if you're looking at from a pure financial perspective. And in that way, you're able to it's almost like participating in the stock market with like play money in a way. And so I think it's great grounds for learning for sure.
Yeah, like a lot of insights like I get to learn from, because before investing in a strategic round, the core team actually talks to the community about like what is this project, what is the but like a centralized venture capital won't actually disclose all those, right? So like yeah, so like I just wanted to know like what's your thoughts on that? Like,
yeah, no, I do really see value in that model, because building out community and marketing for projects is a huge part of kind of what a public sale is, right? What an IDO, an ICO, or a parachain auction is. And so the fact that this fund is able to provide all of the individuals like yourself who are now interested in projects and will join their Telegram groups and increase and kind of boost their marketing, it sounds like a good model. And so I'm a bit of the optimist in me says it sounds great. It sounds like a great place to learn from. And I think you can get information from centralized VCs. I think it's just about building the right relationship, right? Once, like a lot of the deal flow that I get, I'm never really looking for deal flow. I'm just looking to naturally form relationships with people. And by doing so, you'll end up with a strong network. And that's how I've gotten my best deal flow, right? And yeah, that's how I would describe that.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Sahil. Thanks for that. I think that quite about woke us up a lot because a lot of us have such questions, to be honest. But while we all introduced you, Munjal, as someone who would help us get through to investors and talk about how we can impress the investors, thank you for changing that philosophy and making it more about us and our ideas, about how we need to believe in our ideas and need to sell them right. More than trying to impress the investors, I think it's more about guys getting the ideas right and the concepts right before reaching out. So thanks, Munjal. I think that was a great insight. Any further questions? Else we can probably.
One thing I wanted to add to that, because I hear sales pitches, you said it wonderfully. Because I hear so many sales pitches, I'm almost, and because I've made so many mistakes in my career, in my life, when I start hearing like just a pure pitch, I like pause and I ask the person to like stop, and I'm like, what's the biggest failure that you ever had in your life? Like, when have you fell, like I mentioned that golden ratio, like when have you fell on your ass, and like, how did you get back up? Those are the type of stories I like hearing more, because that's where I can truly understand how much resilience they have. And so maybe I just have a I don't know, different way of approaching investing, but that's what I like to hear. Because everyone has a good pitch, right? Everyone can practice the pitch, but like, I want to hear what's beneath that with depth. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. So guys, let's get our stories right before getting out there and reaching out to our investors. I think we need to believe in our concepts before we make them believe in it. So more than selling an idea, it's all about living that idea, examining it, visualizing it, seeing it happen, and then going forward to selling it to our lovely investors. So thanks, Munjal. I think that was a very good insight into getting our process toward you investors, right? Any further questions? Yeah, Munjal.
Hi, Munjal. I have one question. So since you have been into this particular, creating a portfolio as a VC, so I just wanted to understand, so your graph is pretty heavy on the decentralized projects, or like it is a mix of centralized and decentralized both? Because you would be understanding the trend really better at the moment.
Yeah, well, interesting that you say that, because a number of projects that claim to be decentralized, for example, like Solana, aren't as decentralized as you think, right? So could you, I'm just trying to understand, what would you consider to be a centralized project versus decentralized? I'm thinking this is within the crypto.
If we differentiate between Web3 and Web2, so that's the basic difference.
Between what? Between
between the blockchain cryptocurrencies and probably which are not part of the blockchain space yet.
Got it. Okay. Good question. I would say it started out. So in my case, it's probably 90 to 95% blockchain related. That's just because those are the returns. That's where I received the highest returns. And currently in Silicon Valley, I think what we say is software is eating the world. I think currently cloud-based networks for centralized companies is currently eating the world. And I think blockchain it's not there yet, but it's emerging. And I think within the next 10 to 15 years, blockchain will begin eating a lot of those centralized companies. So that's my take. And so right now, about 90 to 95% of my funds are in decentralized projects. But I do believe that we're in a bit of a bubble, to be honest. And so this is not financial advice, but I'm planning to pull out of most of my positions, or many of my positions, before the end of the year.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure.
That's like a big advice for at least many people who are investing over there. So great. We've got Devi Charit, Mutasim Rahman, Shweta, Harsh Bajpai, Braja, all of these guys with their hands up. So we'll take it one at a time. Devi Charit, are you around? Okay, we'll move on to Harsh Bajpai.
Yeah, hello, I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so hi Munjal. So my question is that there are currently like two type of major projects happening in the blockchain space. So like some people are trying to solve the problem of currency, which is like this unexpected rise in inflation, and like giving this power of printing money to governments. Like there's a sudden rise in inflation because of it. So like certain projects are trying to solve that problem, like Bitcoin and Dogecoin, and a lot of other projects. On the other hand, we have projects which are trying to build platforms, like they are kind of like a platform as a service, like Ethereum, where you can like run smart contracts. Polkadot, trying to solve the problem of chain maximalism and hard forks. So my question is that which kind of projects do you think are gonna be more like are gonna have more impact in the future? Like projects that are gonna try to make platforms that people can build upon, or projects that are gonna try to solve the problem of currency? And how many projects do you think we could have in future that would be solving the problem of currency? Like, do you think that we could have multiple projects, like multiple projects could exist that could solve the problem of currency at the same time?
Yeah, that's a good question. When it comes to multiple currencies, I like thinking of that as multiple stable token projects is the way I think of that. What is my outlook on stable tokens? I personally don't think launching a stable token is going to last long term. I think only a few stable tokens are going to succeed. In the interim, since we're talking about Polkadot, let's say KUSD is the stable token currently for the Kusama network. I think where stable tokens help is it helps with the stability of a network as a whole, right? So as I mentioned, if flash crashes happen to occur, or if we hit a bear market, a stable token is kind of the best place to leave your funds in the interim, right? Assuming you're not trying to cash out into dollars or rupees. So I don't think there will be, maybe each government will have their own stable token in the future, but I don't know if stable tokens is where I would invest. In fact, I've participated, I funded a few projects. I don't know, has anyone here heard of Synthetics? The Synthetics token, SYN, that started out as something called Haven, which was a stable token project. And it dropped its price down to like 20 or 40 cents, and it was supposed to be pegged to the dollar, right? So they ended up pivoting pretty successfully, but a lot of the stable token projects that I've seen don't tend to, it's very difficult to build an algorithmically backed stable token. So I don't know if that's necessarily whether that has the best future. When it comes to projects, I think infrastructure layer 1 projects are where you can make the most money and most impact. However, while getting started, I think being able to build on top of an existing layer 1 is where plenty of funding is available, right? So, or layer 1s or layer 2s like Matic, for example, because if you think of it this way, I'm just thinking of how to get bootstrapped as an entrepreneur, right? So if you look at, let's say Matic, right? Matic's, so one of our GPs at Secura Capital was the first check into Matic, and I think he got in at like 0.001 cents or something, right? And it's like $1.30 now. So, and I think Sandeep is holding, and the management team is holding like 70% of the tokens still, right? So they're sitting on huge vaults, essentially, of Matic tokens, right? And so what they're doing is they have all these grant programs. Polkadot has this as well. I think Amit's currently applying for a grant at Polkadot. And so I think being a part of the grant ecosystem is a great way to just get started, to find the right blockchain project that already fits what you need from an infrastructure perspective. And in the case you really can't find something, then you might be onto something to launching your own layer 1. But until then, you should have a good reason to launch your own layer 1. And until then, there's plenty of capital available just within the existing ecosystems. So that's my take. does that help?
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Sure. I think.
Great. Who can we have next? Raj? Are you up
Raj.
for a question?
I think
Cool.
time's done for now, and all of the questions we could probably take later on. There's a fantastic question by Shweta. How do you see crypto evolving? What are the key trends and opportunities? I think this is very relevant for entrepreneurs out here. If you could just touch upon that, and then perhaps we could close. All the other questions we can take off later, Munjal, and please do share your questions on chat, guys, and we will have that be responded on the WhatsApp or Telegram groups subsequently.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. I wasn't even reading the chat. So, okay, someone else wanted to hear about Polkadot. So I'll talk, maybe I'll answer that over chat later. I apologize for not getting to that earlier. So how do I see crypto evolving? What do I see as key trends and opportunities? So this is a good place to tie in Polkadot as well. So, and I think Polkadot and Cosmos, which is Tendermint, are the two projects that are leading with respect to interoperability, right? And so I don't know if any one single blockchain is going to win. It's not a winner take all. It's not like a simple Microsoft versus Apple. I think interoperability is really the key here, right? And in that case, Tendermint has more advanced technology, but Polkadot is more well organized and is ready to deploy capital. And so I believe a couple of things. I think from a short-term perspective, maybe 1 to 2 years, I think yield farming, I don't know if anyone here is into yield farming, but that's a place where I would say at least through the end of this year, you can get 150 to 200% APY, right? Find me a bank that's going to give me that much. I know India has pretty high rates of like 10 to 12%, maybe at times, maybe 6, but getting 150 to 200% APY is great. And so I do have friends at Polkadot. I also have friends at Tendermint. And in Tendermint, if anyone here hasn't checked out Osmosis, check out osmosis.zone. That's a pretty cool platform where you can get 150 to 200% APY. And I'm going to rub, I do rub that in the face of my Polkadot friends who are on the business development team. So I try to do the arbitrage between the two. With that said, with respect to a longer term perspective, let's say 5 to 10 years, I honestly believe that, okay, here's the analogy I would give. Everyone always says Brazils are the lungs of the planet because of the rainforest there. I would say in the same avenue, India is like the heart of, it's the untapped heart of the blockchain infrastructure globally because blockchain is such an early nascent industry, and what we need are the hardcore engineers to enter into the space and help it become scalable, right? We're still so young in the industry as a whole. Solana just went down for like an entire day, right? Like a couple of days ago. And so what we really need are the core infrastructure engineers from India to step in and truly help the infrastructure grow as a whole, and for interoperability to take place in order to build the true Web3 narrative of a fully decentralized internet that's scalable and yeah, I guess I'd leave it there. And so I'll give a quick little recap about Polkadot, just if you don't mind, Amit, because I do want to make sure I get to that question as well. Do I have time for that real quick?
Yes, of course.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So where Polkadot, maybe I'll just give a little bit of education as to how the parachain auctions are working right now. So the way that one of the true geniuses that Gavin launched in Polkadot was launching Kusama, the Canary network, right? So when projects have to launch on exchanges, right, getting integrated in with a new blockchain takes a significant amount of development resources on the exchanges side, right? And this is talking about centralized exchanges, but I'm assuming that decentralized exchanges have a similar amount of work to be done. So what Polkadot's doing right now is through their Kusama parachain auctions is not only a huge innovation when it comes to economics, because in the past, right, even actually when I invested in Polkadot in late 2017, we just sent, I don't know how much Ethereum it was at the time, probably about $10 million worth of Ethereum in today's, price point to an address. We just sent it, right? It's like a one-way wire transaction that you can't, it's osmosis.zone. That you have no guarantee of receiving tokens in the future, right? So in this case, which actually caused a bit of like a Ponzi scheme in a way, where people would launch projects, get a bunch of Ethereum or receive a bunch of tokens, use those to sell their own tokens, buy more Ethereum, and just keep rolling over into more and more Ethereum, right? Which isn't really that healthy for building an ecosystem. So what Polkadot has done instead is you're loaning out your Kusama and you're loaning out your Polkadot instead, right? So in that case, the projects actually have to continually ship in order to stay relevant within the ecosystem, and you're able to receive your Kusama and Polkadot within 48 weeks. So that's one of the big innovations that came from Polkadot. And in my opinion, and this is kind of from conversations with the team at Polkadot too. So now that round 1 through 5 of the Kusama parachain auctions have completed, and we're in round 2 through round 2, which is projects 6 through 10. There was a key differentiating factor within the teams from projects 1 through 5, and there've been but in projects 6 through 10, there's a significant drop off in the team's talent, right? So there's a huge opportunity for everyone here, if you are looking into Polkadot and into Kusama, to launching your own project, because there's capital is available, the technology is available, and it wouldn't take much to differentiate yourself. You really just need to have a good team in place, and you should be able to find some success. And so I'm happy to connect anyone here to both the Polkadot ecosystem as a whole, or even to Tendermint's ecosystem as a whole. I don't like to try to create that competitive vibe in general. So I think whichever project works best for you is a good project to go after.
Great. We actually have quite a few questions for you, Munjul, but but we're running a little short on time, and you've kind of managed to address multiple intentions this evening, Munjul, and we couldn't be more grateful, to be honest. So I think it's better if we get in touch with you personally with the queries we have from everyone else around. Thank you so much. We'll definitely reach out to you, and especially if we think no one but you can sort us out further. This has been very insightful, truly. Especially, I think the toughest part is to get people to agree with your idea, and this is where the whole thing begins, the whole fight begins. So, thanks, Munjul. I think you've quite sorted us out, at least for the beginning phase, at least for the ideation phase that all of us get into. It's quite a big question you've answered. Thanks, and you're around, your family now, so we'll kind of trouble you as much as we can, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ananya and Amit. This was a lot of fun, and happy to help however I can.
Absolutely. Thanks, Manjit. All of us here with us today. This has been a great conversation starter. We have evenings like these planned every month now on, and we'd love to have all of you around every single time. And now that we have your email IDs and phone numbers, trust me, we'll be sending out alerts each and every time. We also have a feedback form for you so that we get to know what you liked about this session, what you want to know further, and especially from the speakers we've had today, like Munjal, what you'd like to know and what would interest you further. Do fill us in, and we'll keep bringing the best of the blockchain and crypto world to you, and keep making it bigger for all of us together as a team, right? So until next time, thank you all. Thank you, Munjal. Thank you, Fred, Vivek, Varun, Amit. This was absolutely great. And cheers to many more such catch-up sessions.